What's good, YouTube? Nate from the Scrub Academy here, welcoming you back for our next deck profile on the channel. Now, this is a deck that I fell in love with when I first found out about what it was centered around and what it was supposed to be doing. And so today we're going to be doing a deck profile on Amorphage. Now, Amorphages are the it's the 8 deadly thoughts, I believe. It's supposed to be 8 deadly thoughts from Japan, so 7 deadly sins. If you don't know what that means, it's based around like sloth, gluttony, greed, all that sort of thing from the Bible. Now, this deck is basically meant towards stopping your opponent from doing anything. So, you know, you can't add cards to the hand, they can't activate spells, they can't activate traps, they can't do pretty much anything that they want to do with the game. So, I'm going to deck profile this today, guys. I'm going to explain a few things about the deck for you guys, and then we'll go from there. So, I'm going to go ahead and start off right away with the deck profile. First card we're starting off with is Amorphage Sloth. Now we're playing 2 Amorphage Sloth. Amorphage Sloth is there because it is one of the highest attackers in the deck. We're also trying to level it out. All the Amorphage monsters are 3 and 5 scaled, so that we're trying to make sure we have, you know, probably an even number of 3 and 5 scales. That way we always are able to have one in hand. I did run into a few consistency issues when I was first playing the deck because I couldn't get certain scales in my hand. His normal effect on the field is that when it's on the field, neither player can special summon monsters from the extra deck except for Amorphage monsters, and its pendulum effect says that no player can add cards to the hand when you control an Amorphage monster. So it's pretty much a mistake. Next up, we are playing 2 Goliath. Yet again, it is pretty much a big beater of the deck. Helps you get over some of the monsters you can't normally get over without some of the other cards that are in the deck. It is a Macrocosmos as well, and it's also a 5 scale. Next up, we're playing 3 Leechery, one of the better cards in the deck, although I'm not very fond of it, because Konami decided that they were going to release this as a level 2 for some reason, so you can't even use this. You can't pendulum summon this ever, so pretty much once it goes into the extra deck, it's done. It's done, it's dead, it's whatever, it's gone. This card is pretty much like the others. When this card is pendulum summoned or flip face up, I believe is what it says. Yes, flip face up. Neither player can special summon monsters from the extra deck except for Amorphage monsters. So it's pretty much like a domain that's constantly on the field. And then also when it's in the pendulum zone, if you have a Amorphage monster on the field, neither player can activate spells except for Amorphage cards, obviously. So it really shuts down a lot of decks, and it's really good. It's also a 5 scale. So yet again, we're still trying to figure out the even number of 3 and 5 scales. That way we can get it all evened out. Next up, we're playing 2 Amorphage Greed. Greed is a royal decree where another player can activate traps except for Amorphage traps. So it really shuts down your opponent. Works well if you can like normal summon an Amorphage, activate this, activate your other pendulum, obviously. So then right after that, they can't activate their traps. And then say you have a Leechery, so you summon a Pride or something, activate Greed. Okay, they can't activate traps, activate Leechery, they can't activate spells. And then you can pendulum summon and start doing things. So, works really well. Also a 3 scale. Next up, we're playing 2 Envy. Envy is a card that's kind of interesting. When it's flip face up or pendulum summoned, neither player can act special summon from the extra deck except for Amorphage cards. It has a nice 20/50 butt, as well as it has an interesting effect of neither player can activate chain 2 or higher. So nobody can chain cards if this is in the pendulum zone, and it's also a scale 5. Next up, we're playing 2 Amorphage Gluttony. Gluttony is a great card. It really stops a lot of decks. This deck is centered around beating the meta, I should say. It can take down Pepe, it can take down Burning Abyss, it can take down PK Fire, it can take down Cosmo. One thing I have run into a problem with is running into Rogue, because this deck isn't really meant for Rogue decks. But we can kind of deal with that later, I guess. So this one says that neither player can activate monster effects except for Amorphage monster effects. So it shuts down the Burning Abyss and the PK Fire in the Grave. It shuts down Cosmo. It shuts down just pretty much everything. It's also a 5 scale. We're trying to run only 2 of this one just because it is a level 2. So we don't really want this one as much, but we can search it out. So when we need it, we can get to it. Next up, we're playing 3 Amorphage Pride. Now we're playing 3 Amorphage Pride because it is a level 4. It is the highest attacker of the level 4s. So when you bring this out, this is pretty much what you're going to do in your beat stick work with. And then if you contribute for a Goliath or a Sloth, you can. But this one right here is the highest attacking one, so we're kind of dealing with this one at all times. And this one states that neither player takes effect damage, so it's not that good in the pendulum zones. We do play 3 though, just because we do have a scale 3 on it, and it is the highest attacking level 4. So, one of the best pendulum summoned out monsters. Next up, we're playing 3 Amorphage Wrath. Probably the MVP of the deck right now. This card states that neither player contributes on monsters except for Amorphage monsters. So, neither player contribute. So, Kaiju, they can't play. Monarchs, they can't play. Kaiju is a huge thing right now. It's really changing up the meta because it can get rid of cards on your opponent's field that you just can't deal with a normal deck. But if I have this in my pendulum zone, guess what? They can't Kaiju shit. So it's just one of those things. It's great. It's also a 1650 beater, so it's the second highest in the level 4s. There's only 2 level 4s that actually have attack, so it is the second highest. That is all for the Amorphage monsters in the deck. Next up, we are playing 2 Archfiend Eccentric. I was running into a little problem with having to deal with back row. I would keep pendulum summoning. This is my first pendulum deck that I've ever played, actually. But I've been running into problems where I pendulum summon into warnings or strikes or anything like that, and it just kind of hurts and it makes me cry a little bit. So I go ahead and I put these in here. It is also a scale 7, so if you have a 3 scale in your pendulum zone, and you have this, so you have a greed, and you have this, then you can go ahead and pendulum summon out your sloths, which normally you couldn't before because you only have 3 and 5 scales. So once you put this in there, you have a little more leeway, and you can get them back from the extra deck. Next up, we're playing 2 Denko Sekka. Yet again, Archfiend Eccentrics is there because I kept pendulum summoning into traps like warning and strike. This is here for the same exact reason, because I kept pendulum summoning into warning and strike, and I was just not a very huge fan of it. So I put these in here where if I summon this, if they have the warning set, they have to warning this. If they don't warning this, okay, I can go off now. It's fine. So this kind of draws out those cards. Next up, we're playing the 2 Maxi because everybody's special summoning a crap load now. Even Monarchs, because they've now moved on to extra deck Monarchs. So it works really well and helps you gain some card advantage. That's it for the monsters. Onto the spells, we're playing 3 Amorphage Infection. Probably another MVP of the deck. Amorphage Infection is a searcher, so whenever a monster you control is tributed or destroyed by battle or card effects, you can add 1 Amorphage card to your hand, so you can add another one of these, you can add the field spell, you can add any of the monsters, doesn't matter as long as it's a Amorphage card. Or you can't actually add the field spell because it's amorphous, but you can add anything else. You can search out this, you can search out any of the monsters, or the trap. So it works really well as it has the effect that all Amorphage cards, or monsters, gain 100 attack for each Amorphage card in the field. So if you pendulums 5, and then you have one of these on the field, and then you also have your pendulum zones filled up, you get 5, 6, 7, 8. So you get 800 attack for each. And then you can have 2 of these on the field, 3 of these on the field. Guess what? You're getting a crap ton of attack. And then those 1750 monsters I mentioned earlier, Pride, and the 1650 Wrath, guess what? Those things are huge now, and they can get over anything, so it doesn't really matter that they're kind of weak. Next up, we're playing 2 Amorphous Persona and 1 Terraforming. Terraforming is there just to take the part of another Amorphous Persona. Just deck thinning, obviously. And then also, this card right here is pretty good. All your Amorphage monsters gain 300 attack and defense, so yet again, more boosting along with your infection. But along with that, if up to twice per turn, whenever you tribute an Amorphage monster, say for your standby phase effects, you get a draw. So it just helps you get more card advantage up, because it is kind of a slow deck. Next up, we are playing 2 Ignite Reload. Ignite Reload is here because sometimes you don't have the right scales in hand, and you just want to reshuffle your hand and try and get something better. You don't have what you need at the time, so this is just here to reload your hand and kind of go from there. Usually turn 1, just to try and get some more momentum going. Or if you're really struggling and you need a certain card, you can try and snag it with that. Then we're also playing a couple of tech cards. We're playing 2 Draco Connection. Draco Connection, you reveal 1 dragon type monster in your hand. Then you get to add 1 dragon type with the same level, different names from your deck. You shuffle the one you revealed back into the deck, and you can add the one that you revealed, or the one you searched. So it's just a way to usually use the level 4 or the level 4 one, so you can switch the scales around if you need it. You can also do that with the level 2s as well. Usually just change, it's the same scale number, but you can change around like what the effect is. So like you can reveal a Leechery if you don't need spells at the time, and you can go ahead and grab yourself a Gluttony so you can stop the monster effects. Really good card, going up. I'm not sure if it's going up because of Amorphage, but it's going up because of Probably Blue Eyes, but still a pretty good card. Next up, we're playing 2 Scapegoat. Now I get to talk about one of the least favorite parts of the deck. During each standby phase, if you have an Amorphage monster in your Pendulum Zone, you have to tribute a monster, or else they get destroyed. So that's why we kind of have these in here. You can activate these in your opponent's end phase, and you can tribute a couple off during your turn, so you can keep your Pendulum monsters around in the scales. Also, that's when the infection comes into play, where tributing happens. So you can add cards, and then Amorphous happens, so you can draw cards as well. And it's also helpful if you get stuck in a bind and you really need to kind of stall a little bit. You can just activate these, and they have 4 tokens to try and beat over. Then we're also playing the 1 Upstart, because Upstart is Upstart, and 39 cards is 39 cards. And then our last 2 cards in the deck are 2 traps, Amorphage Lysis. All monsters on the field besides Amorphage cards lose 100 attack and defense. I believe it's defense as well. For as many Amorphage cards on the field that you have. So you can really lower your opponent's monster's attack with this. You can raise your attack with Infection, so you can beat over them. Also, once per turn, when a Pendulum monster in the scales is destroyed, you can go ahead and replace it with one from the deck. So if you are playing and you see that you have a Greed on the field, and you don't need a Greed in the scale, okay, because I don't have any traps, you can just let it destroy itself, activate Lysis, and replace it with one that you might need. Say you want Wrath in there because you want to be able to stop them from tributing your stuff off with a Kaiju. This works out really well. You can kind of push through your deck, you can search things out, whatever you really need at the time, so it's pretty good as well. We're only playing the 2 because we are playing the Denkos, and we don't want to have to deal with having these set, or any other traps set. I had a lot of traps in the deck at first, before I put the Denkos in, but we took those out for the Denko. So that is the entire deck. I'll show you my side deck real quick. We don't play an extra deck because Amorphage monsters obviously say that you can't special summon from the extra deck if you control Amorphage, except for Amorphage, and there aren't any Amorphage XYZs, Synchros, anything like that as of yet. So we're playing 3 MST, just general basis stuff, trying to deal with the domains and any of the traps that are in the back row. We have the 2 Iron Wall for your Cosmo, the Monarch matchups. We have the 2 Gamma Seals dealing with anything from Cosmos to Raid Raptors to Magnus, that sort of thing. We have the 2 Light and 2 Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors just for the general light and dark decks. 2 Effect Failure, and then finally we have the 2 Destruction cards, Darko and Regeki, because this deck kind of has a problem dealing with built-up fields. So you always want to go first. That's why you have the Draco Connections and the Ignite Reloads in there to deal with that sort of thing. But that is the entire deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give it 2 thumbs up, because all your support is greatly appreciated. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, be sure to leave them down in the comment section. I will also leave a typed up version of the deck list in the description below, as well as any information that is needed at the time. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is Nate from the Scrub Academy, hoping that you learned a little bit today. Thanks so much. Peace out.